if you're going to get an investor, they care about that at the end of the day. And obviously there's other factors to it, reputation, ethics, and etc. But the number one thing is, can you make us money? It's not a charity. It's not a nonprofit organization.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Tech startup founders and tech entrepreneurs, most of them could be software developer, but they're getting in love with the product. They got emotion attached to the product, and they want the product how they want it, how they see that the problem can be solved. They think that they understand the problem, but they don't, because they're not buying the problem. They're not buying the product. Who's buying the product want the product in different form, exactly what you say, with the different user experience. So how can we close this gap?
I think
Well, if
startups,
you agree also with my statement, maybe you disagree, but my opinion, we have a lot of tech founders out there that they are 80-90% of that they are product focused rather than user and clients focused. That's what I see, but maybe you have a different opinion. I don't know how you see this landscape.
yeah, so I've analyzed over 15,000 companies globally.
Look at you.
Hence the hair loss. I would say one thing that startup founders tend to make the mistake is that they do not look from the VC's perspective. They have to understand VCs are somewhat like a startup too. If it's not the GPs, the general partners, so the management team putting all the money into a fund, they're getting funding from pension funds, institutions, high net worth individuals. So they also have an obligation to their shareholders. It's kind of a
100%.
domino effect. And they have to understand, they're dealing with a venture capital fund. This venture capital fund needs a return in 3 to 5 years. Most likely 3x. So in other words, a 300% return on their investment.
In 3 years.
3 to 5 years, depending on funds. Some are
Okay.
7 to 10 if they're deep tech. And a lot of times I see with a lot of great tech team, everything, you see the passion in a founder, but it's more of a widget than a business. And sometimes they're like, oh, we can compete with the big guys. But it could be a perspective that they shouldn't look at this as a failure. They should be working with the big corporations in that industry to be like, for example, Qualcomm or Intel. I have a product that I think is missing. Let's work together. I think a lot of times startups fail because they try to compete with the big boys or girls. And they should look like, you know what? We need to be realistic. Can we fundraise this to a certain time? What's our burn rate? And that's a big problem. You mentioned one thing. They spend so much money, they have no more funding because they can't manage the cash properly. Or they are too optimistic. And sometimes you got to be pessimistic to get the realistic view. So overall, I would say that they have to look at the point of view of the VC and would they invest if they had no emotional attachment to this company? Because at the end of the day, no one cares about how long you've worked on a product or service.
100%.
People do not care. They all have their
how much
interests.
money you spend developing. Nobody cares.
And another thing is they have to take into consideration what is the best exit strategy. A lot of them are like, oh, I'm going to go IPO and I'm going to be dealing with shareholders on a quarterly basis. Maybe you could still be successful working with a huge corporation and you could be a multimillionaire. And you could be relaxing, or you could negotiate to get royalties after the company like keeps on developing the product. Like there's several other ways to make money if that's your purpose. Some entrepreneurs, they might be like, I just want to make enough money so I can feed my family and live a certain lifestyle. that's still a success. It all depends what someone looks at, what they want to achieve. Based on
Yeah,
my experience analyzing companies,
yeah. Daniel, the making money in tech is different. I have when I tech entrepreneurs approach me and I telling them, they say, "How you can help me to grow my business?" And I say, "Okay, maybe let me give you some ideas." They will tell me, "Harry, you don't understand. Tech is different of a traditional business, and the more and more I see tech, the more is more similar to a traditional business. I think the only difference with tech is the valuation, because when um, it's true that the companies have high valuation when they have track record and they have some sales, and because of the data and the use that they make of the data. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a product and you cannot sell it, and you cannot prove that to the investors, it's gonna be difficult for you to find funding. Those times, Daniel, that you raise $1 million or $2 million with a piece of paper, those times are gone, or do you think that still there is room for raising a couple of million just with a piece of paper like it used to be before?
I think those days are over, and hence that's why there's a big devaluation in the startup market in 2022. I did evaluations for startups prior to that time, and let's just say they were quite optimistic, to be polite. But I think at the end of the day, cash is king. When you really look at it, I would say maybe the one type of startup is deep tech that you have to be patient with, because if you're building innovative technology, it takes time. It's a lot of spending in that R&D. And now we see with quantum computing and health is also an industry, because if you're going to deal with FDA approval, CE, it's a very difficult break into that market. But I think those valuations were a big reason why a lot of VC funds had to devalue their portfolio, and now they're having difficulty fundraising. Not all of them, but some of them who did not do the proper due diligence, and I would say market research. But on top of that, VCs have also changed quite a bit too. Before, it was just back like 10 years ago, write a check and just tell us when we get a return of our investment. We'll have our quarterly shareholder meetings, and that's it. Now they're very more hands-on, because startups and VCs are changing. VCs are a bit smaller, but they have a team that can assist startups to grow. And startups are a lot smaller, as we see with AI, just like what ChatGPT did and these other AI tools, such as Lovable and etc. And overall, at the end of the day, business is about making money. We like it or not, that's what business comes down to. And if you're going to get an investor, they care about that at the end of the day. And obviously, there's other factors to it, reputation, ethics, and etc. But the number one thing is, can you make us money? It's not a charity. It's not a nonprofit organization.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.